we are selling in our hypothetical trademark application. We are selling the adibiip group face masks. They're available from this site here. This actually is a live site, so please feel free to buy some face masks. If you buy one, I'll send you 5. I realize that's on tape and on the record, but it's most likely, unless I run out, it's probably the truth. I give these away, but it's fun to also have a front-facing storefront. But really, the point of this is to just demonstrate to you guys a couple of really important things when you're selecting your specimen, because that's really going to be one of the areas where you'll probably mess up if you do this yourself. So remember, a specimen is actual proof that you're using the mark in commerce to sell goods. Okay, so I'll give you guys like with a really awesome tip. This is, I guess, also my personal hot take, but it's been tried and true, and it's worked out pretty well in the past for us. If you have an add to cart button or some very blatantly clear method of purchasing a good or service, and you have it next to the good, like an image, and then the mark appears next to it. So for example, here's the mark. So the mark that we're gonna pursue is a adibiip group, and then the good is shown on the right, and it's also described below, and then it's right next to an add to cart button. So it's all contained, it's all right there. That's going to give you the highest likelihood of succeeding with a specimen that shows the goods. Now, there's a second place where the specimen appears on the goods. It's kind of obvious that itself has a label, right? So what's interesting about the label though is that it's on the front of the good, but it's out to the side, right? Now, the risk that we run whenever we have the mark itself directly on the front of a good, especially like a t-shirt or a hoodie or a beanie, you have to be careful, because the treatment will basically say that it's just decorative. It's not operating as a source identifier. And so therefore your specimen could be rejected. So really what I'm relying on here is the fact that it shows up here, it shows up here at the top. And then as backup, it's also on the good, and it's more of a label. And so what we'll do actually in the description of the goods, description of the specimen, which is required in a Section 1A application, is we'll actually say that the mark itself also has a label affixed to the goods, and that label has the mark. So again, when you click Start Your Application in TIAS, so it's going to take you to this page here, but remember, that's only because I've already logged in to uspto.gov. Now, remember, we're going to do this. So let's do the plus application today. And we actually might discover how limiting the plus is whenever we're trying to select our good, because our good is kind of unusual. I mean, it's not now unusual, but if you ask someone, 8 months ago if they had a face mask, I mean, I would have said no. So this is in keeping with the concept of, well, really just go with the standard. You have so much more latitude. Again, we're gonna have an attorney do it. Let's do a company. So let's start out with company. Again, let's continue. So we're gonna continue. We're gonna press standard. We're gonna save that $50. All right. So the owner of the mark. We're gonna just do our company here, just for purposes of this example. Again, when you select corporation, you're gonna have to indicate the state that the company was formed in. So in this case, it'd be California. And our mailing address is San Francisco 94103. Okay, cool. And here, this part, you're gonna have to put in your email address. Now, this is actually required now. You didn't before have to provide this email and website address. Let's just do our main address. That's actually not required, but it's nice to have it if you happen to have it. Add the website address. All right, so let me just copy that over. like to add the exact address. Okay, so when I hit continue, it's going to give me a warning. It's going to say, hey, you didn't enter your phone number correctly. That's okay. I like to keep my phone number off of items as much as I can, just like the rest of the general public. When you hit continue, now this is the part where we have to enter in our mark. So we're just going to do a DBIP group now. Tomorrow we can do, I think it shows up in all caps. So let's be careful. Let's be precise. So actually, no, it's not all caps on the goods. So let's just, we'll just spell it out this way. Then we'll hit continue. If you want to see what it looks like, you can click the preview button. Now, this is the part where we have to add the goods and services once we hit next. Now, again, I remind you, this is the Plus application. So we're quite limited in terms of what we can actually use to identify the goods. So here's the test. We'll see. This whole episode might be a flop. We might have to give up and go back to yeah. So this is what we're stuck with, guys, right here. So knit face masks being headwear. I feel like this is extremely limiting. And face masks used as protective are probably going to be under class 9, and those related to health are going to be under class 10. That's kind of what you're seeing here. See here, protective face masks for the prevention of accident or injury, that'd be class 9. And then face masks for dental or healthcare providers, we're looking at class 10. So just keep that in mind. In this case, these are really more about headwear. I think that's a bit of a stretch. And obviously, I'm sure some viewers would disagree and would debate with me that they're also protective or that they're possibly considered medical. But really, I think for the purposes of this and for the purposes of how it's marketed even, it's not really meant to be a protective or used in a medical setting. It's meant to comply with certain local ordinances, and really it's a knit face mask. So this is the most appropriate. Now, if this wasn't here though, that would be a huge tell. I personally don't like this description. I probably would have just wanted something more like face masks. And then if the examiner had an issue with it, we could duke it out. But the point is that that's not even an option with the TS Plus. So we're paying $125, but now we're stuck with this very, very, what I think is very narrow and limiting description of headwear. So that's something to think about whenever you guys are doing these applications on your own. So we're going to do section 1A this time. And this is new. We haven't done a section 1A application together, but we're doing it today. So we're going to have to attach a specimen. Now, I created one before the show. And just so it's clear, I want to just go back real quick. So here's what I did to create the specimen. I literally just took a screenshot of our page. Okay. Now, the one thing that you have to remember, there's two important things that were changed around February of this year. The trademark office started requiring that along with the specimen if it's a screenshot of a website, you actually have to also indicate the URL and the date that you downloaded or took the screenshot of that URL. So I did this morning. So we're going to say today's the date, and I already have the URL shown there. So let's go ahead and upload the specimen. So I'm going to pick the file, and once I select it, I'll have the opportunity. Oh, and PDF, by the way, make sure you PDF it. I think PDFs work out the best. So I attach. So now we have an attached specimen, and you could do JPEG, by the way, but I personally like to do PDFs. So then we're gonna, okay, so now it's attached, it's uploaded, and we can return to forum. And when we return to the forum, we'll see that you see one file attached. So that's how you know that you've in fact successfully attached your specimen. Now, the description of specimen. So in this case, we're gonna say, see, here's the new, this was new here. They didn't have this a few months ago. They didn't have this language, but this was added later. So the description of the specimen is just gonna be a screenshot of a web page. And then I personally, this is the way I personally like to do it. I like to do it this way because it's super clear. So it's a screenshot of a web page, and then you input the URL right there, and you say showing the mark. You can say the applied for mark used in commerce, sell the identified goods. And then you could also say, so it's a screenshot, And then you can also say the screenshot includes an image showing the goods with a label having or bearing the mark affixed to the goods. And again, that is the second use of the mark here that Victoria identified for us earlier. So here's the label, and it's actually affixed to the good itself. So if the examiner doesn't buy this bit or doesn't like this bit, then at least we have this to rely on over down here. So now there are two really important dates that you have to have for every Section 1A application. That is the date you first used the mark anywhere and the date that you first used the mark in commerce. So for the purposes of this, I'm going to say the date of first use anywhere. Let's just say January 6th of 2020. We launched this. Let's say so you have to know for sure. Okay, so let's assume that we know for sure. Let's just do 4/15/2020, good old tax day. And the date that you first use in commerce, this is I wouldn't call it a gray area, but it's an area where a lot of people make mistakes and don't quite fully understand. But let's talk about it. To be used in commerce, you have to have a sale that involves another state. So what I generally recommend people do is they identify the date that they first have proof that they sold one of their goods to an out-of-state resident. So we're based here in California. So the first day that we sold, let's just say in Oregon, in this case, let's say it was 4/15/2020. So that's where I would get this date here. Now, in the application, you're not going to have to provide proof of that. And even when it gets examined before the trademark examiner is not going to request proof of that. And if they do, I mean, I've never heard of that happening. I think it'd be a really strange anomaly. But the reason why I say that you should have the record is because if this ever gets litigated, if someone ever tries to prove that you didn't, in fact, have a use in commerce on that day, it's nice to have that receipt handy. Super nice, super convenient. You don't want to have to go and drum it up 5 years later. That'd be really stressful, especially knowing that you're in active controversy. It's always better to have the proof ready now. I actually request it from my clients just so that I can put it in their file. It's nice and really nice thing to have. So once we click assign filing basis, we've basically done all the hard work. So it's got to be 2-digit, 2-digit, 4-digit. So I missed the second digit, but on here too. But once we hit assign filing basis, we're fetching a color specimen. So technically this is a color specimen, but I'm gonna just leave it blank. So now what will happen is we'll be asked to enter our correspondence information. So we get this strange error. This happens sometimes. Again, this is just the description. So if the description field is in fact an issue, the examiner is going to ask you to modify it and fix it. So not a big deal. Anyways, here's again showing us, so we have knit, face mask, Bing headwear. We're filing under Section 1A. So that means that we're already selling the mark in commerce. So we're going to hit continue. And here we get to input our correspondence information, or our contact information, like our email. So I'm making up a docket number. You can, if you only have one case, the docket number isn't as important because you're going to know when you get a correspondence what it's referring to. We have a lot of clients, and so we need to use docket numbers to keep track of everything. So I'm going to put Victoria's email here, but just know if you have an assistant, someone that helps you, someone that's on your team, a partner maybe, or you have an employee, you might want to add their email addresses here. This just makes sure that they also will get correspondence from the trademark office. It'll just help your entire team know what's going on. And in case you, for some reason, miss the email, your other team member won't miss it or is more likely to bring it to your attention. So we're going to hit continue. And now we're almost done with this trademark application. Now, remember, this is a TS Plus application. So it's $225 instead of the regular $275. So we're saving $50. Now, I'm going to sign directly. Real quick, the first checkbox is just saying that you understand that you're filing under Section 1A. So that means that you're actually already using the mark to sell the goods. So I'm going to check it. In past episodes, we've done a lot of Section 1B applications. So you guys are probably already familiar with this language. But this is a 1A application. This is just saying that to our belief, we have a right to use this mark in commerce. The third is saying that there's evidentiary support. So in this case, the evidentiary support would be, well, here's the proof. We're actually have our good out on the market. And the last checkbox is saying that we understand we're signing under penalty of perjury. So if we lie, we could be subject to fine or imprisonment. Now, signing, again, you put your name between slashes to make it super easy for you to sign. Date signed, they automatically autofill today's date. And then my name, I'm going to just type out my name. And it has to be last name, first name, initial. And then my position, I'm technically the president. And then my phone number. So once I click validate, we're done. Basically, we'll get to this final page here. And now we have the option of submitting or saving the form, or going back to review it. So what I always recommend everybody do, make sure that you click the input button, make sure you read through the application, make sure everything is correct. I've stressed this many, many times, but the mark itself, you can never change. So this mark here, the literal element of our mark, you cannot change this after you submit. So after you submit, you're stuck with that. If you misspell the name, or if you feel like, oh, actually, the mark should have been spelled this way, you can't change that. So you got to get it right now when you're filing. And then as we scroll down, we're going to see a lot more information here. In the past with Section 1B applications, we didn't see all this information. So this is actually a good example. If you realize during the application that you made a mistake, you can actually go back really easily and fix that. So we're going to go ahead and do that now. And again, it's really easy. You just click go back to modify. The one really good thing about the system they have is that they store the session. So when I go forward, it's going to have all the same information that I had before. Or actually, it's a screenshot. So let's just say taken on, and today's date, August 24, 2020. That shows, there we go. So just to do the final check, we're going to click input. We're going to do the final review of the application. And as you can see, this has been updated. So now it has the date. So now we're good. Now we're in business. And I added this sentence just to show that hey, look, examiner, it also shows up there's a photograph of the actual good, and the label has the mark, and then it's affixed to the goods. So in case the examiner has an issue with the screenshot, at least they have another image of the actual good itself. And this all looks good to me. So I'm going to go ahead and submit. The application is good to go. If you guys wanted to save this form, you can save it. Just click save form. It'll download what's called a .obj file. That .obj file can then be used to complete the application tomorrow. So you can download it, and then at the very beginning, when you go and log in tomorrow, you can upload it, and it'll have saved all your session information, your specimen, everything. So it's a really convenient way. If you're not entirely sure that you're ready to file today, just save the .obj file and file tomorrow. Now, again, this final checkbox is just saying no refunds. Once you submit, that's it. If you misspelled the mark, for some reason, if it should have been all caps, if you want it to appear in all caps, now's the time to fix that, because if I submit and then realize it's wrong, you got to go back and pay another $225. So make sure that this is in fact what you want to submit to the trademark office. We're going to click pay submit, and it's going to take us to a payment page. Okay. Now, once we get to the payment page, all we have to do now is submit our credit card information, and our application will be submitted once we hit the submit payment. I want to make sure that's clear. Once I hit pay submit here, I'm going to get an email, and that email is going to have the serial number of my application. Okay, that serial number is going to be tied to the application throughout the entire process. So I'll be able to check the status of the application before and even after it gets registered as a mark. I'm going to be able to track it, and so will my team members. As long as you have that serial number, anybody with that serial number is going to be able to track the progress of it. So remember, trademark applications, even during their pendency, are public record. Okay, that's why I stress keep your telephone number off the application if you can. There's no reason to really have it there. Most examiners are going to communicate with you over email. Now, again, just to recap, I just want to explain, make it really clear that this was a Section 1A application. So once this is examined by the trademark examiner, if the examiner approves the application, so if they find that there's no other marks that are likely confusing on the register, if they accept our specimen, if they're cool with the entire application, then they will push the application forward to publication. And after the 1 month publication period, assuming nobody opposes registration of the mark, this application will turn into a federally registered trademark. So it will be registered on the principal register. This is different from the prior episodes where we did what are called intent to use applications, or applications on trademarks that aren't yet presently used in commerce, but you want to use them. So in those applications, after the publication stage, so there's examination, if the examiner is cool with it, they publish it. And then after publication, for an intent to use application, you'll get what is called a notice of allowance, okay? And the notice of allowance, after you get that, then you have to submit this proof of use in what's called a statement of use. Now, that statement of use is actually the same thing that we submitted in this application just now, right? So it's the actual screenshot of the web page along with the date of access and the date that you and the URL and the date that you first used it in commerce. So you can almost think of a Section 1A application as including everything in the 1B, but you also submit the proof of actual use and the dates that you first used it to sell.